French Guiana, land of El Dorado, that lost city of gold, is also the land of lost causes, a mysterious place of failure. This fever-ridden corner of the French Empire, 5,000 miles from Paris, is their only South American possession. Guyana's always lived down to its reputation, for in such equatorial steam heat, everything goes wrong. Its position is impossible. On one side, tropical seas of sharks. On the other, jungle so dense the sun cannot reach down to its swampy depths, to the vampire bats and giant anacondas, to the furry spiders. In 3.5 centuries, the French have managed to build through it just 200 miles of road. The next crossroads is down in Brazil, 1,500 miles that away. This sleepy mixture of France and the tropics seems to suit a special kind of person. Romantics and those whose backgrounds won't bear much examination. The whole place exudes a seedy, tumble-down Gallic charm. Cayenne, the capital. Under rusty iron balconies, Guyanese Negroes drink red wine, smoke Gauloise, and sound like Jean Gabin. You've seen it all before in some old Hollywood B feature, the Too Late Show, set in the crumbling coastal town of an Amazon backwater. In a vain attempt to colonize this pestilential patch, Louis Napoleon founded his penal colony here in 1852, and French Guiana, if it's meant anything, has meant Devil's Island ever since. This is still a land you're sentenced to. But these Isles of Salvation have not been left to their troubled sleep, their unhappy memories. Just as convicts were once sent to this fevered equatorial land to colonize and to work, so today a new breed is being dispatched from Mother France, and come to that, from Britain too. These islands, which until a very few years ago saw some of the most cruel and primitive punishments since the galley slaves, have now joined, in a very big way, the space age. The Amazon rainforest. The French began clearing 115 square miles around the village of Kourou 5 years ago when their rocketeers had to leave the Sahara, and they've created a space center, the French Woomera or Cape Kennedy. So far it's cost £45 million, with another 45 million still to spend. Kourou may be miserable for men, but it's marvelous for rockets. Since it's such a remote, God-forsaken spot, they can blast off in almost any direction, and here on the equator they get every help from the Earth's rotation, the maximum boost into space. There goes another moonshot from Kennedy. But here in French Guiana, rockets are a little less forceful. For their millions, the French, now ranking third in the International Space League, need at least 30 rocket launches a year. Last year, they managed 5, and baby rockets at that. Unfortunately, the European Space Club has flopped. After 8 years and 3 attempts, Eldo still has no satellite in orbit, and the British, who make the main booster, the Blue Streak, are pulling out. So the French have on their hands the biggest white elephant of the space age, and what's more, it's in the jungle. They're hoping the Americans will bring rockets to fire here, but unfortunately up at Houston they're also strapped for cash. So today there's little to do in these empty space age temples, except rearrange the dust. On a lift in a Space Center skyscraper, one of Kourou's directors, Monsieur Audebert. What is this fantastic structure?
Well, this is a mobile tower used to prepare the French vehicle called Guiana. And from this spot we fired in last March the first diamond. And we were successful to put into orbit a German satellite called Dial.
You fired it actually from this?
Yes, this is the diameter of the rocket, you see, and the rocket is put particularly there, and we control it in this tower, you see.
It seems to me that you could probably handle something like 3 times the amount of the firings that you're doing as of now.
Oh, what about, yes.
3 times?
Yeah, 3 times, yes.
You see, it might be fair to describe you as the most forgotten scientific community in the world.
Well, maybe. This is not quite a scientific community, you see. We're just performing job for others, you see. We're at the disposal of the user.
But there aren't enough users.
Of course, but I think maybe you can help me.
I can get you some
find
customers.
users, yes.
Now, I believe you charge about £1 million to fire a rocket here. So if you're just looking for people who've got $1 million to spare.
Maybe. Well, we are going to, I think, if the number of rockets fired in a year increases, the price will decrease.
You
at
get
the same
it?
time, I think so.
You'll have a sale, a bargain, a bargain price.
Of course.
On sale, the Hawker Siddeley Blue Streak. This 60-foot ballistic missile with Rolls-Royce engines was written off as an £84 million failure, but then achieved 10 launchings at Woomera. Those snags in top stages built by other countries kept those satellites out of orbit. Leading the British team of 28, Bob Crowther. There seems to be something quite sad about Britain's last rocket alone in a shed in French Guiana in the back of beyond. See, Kourou seems like a beautiful girl who's also a very good cook, but nobody asks her.
This is really not the case. The range has been used so far for what it was designed to launch. Certain specific vehicles belong to specific projects.
Well, these are little tiny November the 5th rockets, aren't they? I mean, they're not in this league.
This is true. One must start somewhere. The range has to be proved as a range before you can launch a vehicle as complex. This one.
The Blue Streak, I still insist, it seems a sad rocket to me because it's really never let us down. It's always done its best. It's always being knocked.
Is knocked, but it's knocked mainly in the UK itself rather than outside. The other European...
We had to pay for it, that's why.
We had to pay for it, surely. But the other European countries have got a great confidence in it as the first stage of a European multi-stage satellite launch vehicle.
Well, they've got no alternative, have they? If they didn't believe in Blue Streak, they'd be in a bad way.
But it has demonstrated its reliability, and this is the important point.
Controlling that European space program, a German, Dr. Klaus Iserland.
We are building up now here a new launch site for the Elder rocket. As you know, we launched before in Woomera in Australia, and the next launches will be made from here in Guiana in order to have an equatorial position for the next launches.
But while you've been constructing all this, your empire has rather been crumbling beneath you, has it not?
Well, everyone can speak about an empire, and whether one can speak about crumbling is another matter. We had, as you mean the difficulties we had with possibly your country a bit?
Well, the fact that we're going to pull out to
yes.
start with.
Well, pull out is maybe a hard word. UK reduced its contributions to the program. But as you see here, you have met here several English people. We have a large crew of English people here. You have seen the Blue Streak, our first stage. So
after 71, Doctor, you lose our official contributions.
Yes, officially we lose your contributions for the remainder of the program. In other words, for if we undertake to make a new rocket.
See, the place does seem, to an outsider, it seems remarkably inactive. It's like a haunted ballroom. I mean, there's nobody doing anything.
Well, I don't know. You probably can't compare it with Cape Kennedy, where you see one launch pad at the other, and from each of these launch pads, maybe at the rhythm of one launch every 3 months, a missile goes off.
How would you sell what Eldo is doing to, let's say, the British government?
There have been famous comparisons made with the first cars when Ford built its famous, I think it was a T model, that at this time everybody could have argued that first of all a car was a very exclusive thing which only very few people would ever use in their life. That also it needed a lot of development, and thirdly that it was much cheaper to buy it from those who produced them already. Now imagine what has happened in Europe if one at this time would have decided never to go into the car industry.
At the moment, the best one can expect for all this is an improved television picture.
Well, I would say more than that. Improved television picture, telex links to countries which otherwise have no commercial possibilities of development, and all these things.
The birth of a space centre, explained by the British Vice-Consul in Cayenne, Father Catty.
Well, it's thanks to General de Gaulle that we really had it, you see. He came over in 1964, I think, and on his South American tour. He went to the other South American countries, and he made a speech on a public place called Place de Grenoble, and he suggested that as French Guiana has been sort of forgotten, you see, for 3 centuries, that something big should be organized there, you see, something big, very big, international level. And then he didn't say what it was. And soon after we learned that they were leaving Colombey-Char, and the whole setup would be placed at Kourou.
Well, now, having got your beneficent gift from the President, did it in fact benefit the country very much, possessing a space station?
In a way, it has benefited the country. There are new roads, you see, the infrastructure has been put in, you know. And then I think the most interesting thing is this bridge that was built over the Kourou River. See.
That must have cost a lot.
Yeah. Yes. And we had, for instance, the airfield, you see, airport, which was lengthened, you see. We had the Boeing 707 coming in.
That's 2 planes in about 2 minutes. That must be a record. On the other hand, it does seem to have created a privileged class here. You've introduced a lot of wealthy foreign whites. It's a new aristocracy.
It's a new aristocracy, yes.
And what effect have they had upon your country?
Well, it has caused the French Guyanese to be sort of class conscious, which didn't exist before, you see. Didn't exist.
Xenophobia.
And, xenophobia. And secondly, color conscious, because immediately after the liberation of the slaves here in 1848, they introduced, you see, the penal system here, the penal colony. And that sort of balanced the thing, you see. We had black slaves and white slaves, you see. And I think that prevented the French Guyanese from having a sort of a complex. Yes. They had an inferiority complex first, then a superiority complex after, you see. Yes. So therefore, they're not color conscious. You'd see that when you're at school, for instance, you have school children, you're dealing with them. And there's a sort of mixed group with Europeans and locals, Creoles. Well, if there is a fight going on, and a Creole would like to sort of insult, you see, a European, you see, he would say that you are a sort of vieux blanc, espèce de vieux blanc, see. And the other chap...
That means you're an old convict.
You're an old convict,
yes.
You see, ex-convict.
Yes.
And the other would just answer, the European would just answer, you are a sort of Saramaka. Saramaka means a sort of a bush Negro, very, very primitive, you know. I mean, you've never seen a town in your life, and don't even know what a toothpaste is and all sort of things, you see. So I think it's very amusing to see that, and there is no ill feeling about it, you see. No offense meant and none intended.
Or there used not to be.
No.
Now there is, perhaps.
Well, now, yes. I think they're putting some malice between it. I mean, there's some ill feeling, you know, behind the words now.
This equatorial new town's planned for 20,000 people. 6,000 space scientists, technicians and their families are here already, and the building goes on. But the centre's as busy as the rocket range. Kourou still feels like a ghost town. Where is everybody? Oh, there they are. Encouraged to come here on 3-year contracts by double salaries, gentle taxes, and 2 months home leave each year, they still suffer those universal Newtown blues. Their remote community relies absolutely upon its 5,000-mile line of communication. Everything must be brought in from abroad, every comb, every car. The jungle provides nothing except oppression. Flats in Kourou, where a young secretary can earn £4,000 a year, rent for £5 a week, and villas for £15 to £20 a week. For this sophisticated jungle tribe, the living's easy. For wives, perhaps too easy. Their greatest enemy, along with this otherworldly feeling of utter isolation, is tropical boredom. So there's a time-consuming flurry of clubs and classes. Spare-time community activities like the Kourou Flying Club's annual display, when the whole population turns out to be jumped upon from a slight height and buzzed. Among this forgotten society, about 100 Britons. As the wife of the company representative, you're the sort of queen bee here, aren't you, on the English side?
Well, you might call me that. I don't quite know whether that's a very nice compliment anyway. But
what are your biggest headaches, apart from looking after the other wives, your own personal ones?
my own personal headaches are trying to find enough variety of fresh foods to feed people that we may entertain. I think most of us here miss fresh milk and fresh vegetables.
So it seems it's in for a dig for you to work, isn't it?
Oh yes, quite.
You mustn't do that.
Well, you can work if you wish to, but you must of course be very fluent in French to be able to cope with that.
But the other thing is that all your husbands are earning such phenomenal salaries.
Well, we do have to pay phenomenal tax as well.
Do you?
Not quite so bad as in England.
I'm sure it is.
But, we do pay tax here as residents, but everybody, I think, comes here with the main aim to try and save some money.
Don't you ever feel yourself that perhaps you're doing 3 years hard?
I think the first impression you get when you arrive here that it's so very hot and humid that it might be like that, but very soon you adjust to this heat and humidity.
And these bugs and the mosquitoes and the centipedes.
Oh yes, there are a lot of mosquitoes around, but you either use some spray lotion to put on your skin, or else you get bitten for a while. But I'm told that in the second year you're not troubled too much by mosquitoes. Oh. So we hope that...
They get used to you. But I don't think you get used to these big black hairy spiders.
No, we don't see many of those in Kourou. They're mainly in the mountains.
Yeah.
They're not very much around the houses. We do have the occasional snake, but usually there's someone can cope with it and kill it.
What do you do when you come across one?
Well, I've got a great machete, which I keep in my car, and I hope that I can kill it. I've only killed a little baby one about so big so far.
Well, you're working your way up.
Yes.
Now, see, any event like this would seem to me to be vital for you, because your lives are rather boring ones, are they not?
Lives can be boring if you don't make your own entertainment. Here, I think most of us try to make our own entertainment. We make barbecues, we have parties at houses.
So in a way it's like living on a ship, isn't it? I suppose don't you have the little quarrels and the little jealousies and the...
Oh no, I believe that in any small town there's gossip, but it has to take a small town mind to be totally integrated with this.
Let's go around here and have a look at the...
At the parachute.
So they've dropped in that jungle, those parachutists. What do you think will happen to them?
Well, I hope that the rescue teams are waiting already and that they will go in there and find them.
I see the ambulance went off.
Yes, that's the local ambulance, or one of the Kness ambulances. They will no doubt know just where to look for them. Probably the planes will go out if they can't find them and find the parachute.
It's not like Stevenage, is it?
Not quite.
What do you miss most from Stevenage?
From Stevenage, probably browsing around the shops, I think, looking for clothes, odd items that women find necessary, makeup. Hair lacquer is a very difficult problem here.
Is it?
They don't have the normal type of hair lacquer that we use in England.
Well, whatever you use, it seems to work.
Oh, I bought this in Paramaribo.
That's the next country.
Of course. That was one of the perks of the visit.
Ah, here they go again. You're one of the very few single girls out here, I suppose. There must be, what, how many?
Well, that have been sent out here on contracts, there's only 5 of us.
5 single girls?
Yes.
And how many thousand men?
I don't know, I've never counted. But
Enough?
there's not, yes.
Sufficient,
enough. Yeah.
as they say.
Yes.
So, in fact, you'll never ever have it as good again,
I don't think I will. I should find it very difficult to settle down anywhere else than in a community like this.
When there's only just one chap.
I'm thoroughly spoiled.
How about money? You're spoilt with money as well?
Well, I suppose I earn more than I do at home, but I still find it easy to spend it all, and I really don't save a thing.
Don't you really? Now, you're a shorthand typist here.
Yes.
Would I be exaggerating if I said you must be earning, what, about £60 a week?
No, you wouldn't be.
I wouldn't be.
No.
I'd be underestimating.
No.
About right.
Yeah.
Well, now, can you spend £60 a week out here in this
Well, I don't spend it here.
equatorial Welland?
No, I haven't. I haven't spent it here. One of my reasons for coming out here was to travel and see as much as I could. And in the 2 months holiday that I had, I've profited as much as I can. And I've spent a lot of money doing that.
Yes. Well, now, those are the good sides. Lots of lovely money and lots of lovely men. What about the bad side?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, there's no bad side at all.
Nothing?
No.
What about work? What's the work like?
Oh, yes, well, that's for sure.
That's a bit of a
hindrance sometimes.
Life in French Guiana is not often interrupted by work, and when they play, it's with a certain style. But even this equatorial land parades its beauty queens, observed by the prefect with Gallic approval, and suitably rewarded. The annual Feast of Cayenne, where these citizens of France dance to the tunes that Paris calls. Those distant discords which, for French Guiana, have always been the blues.
You see, there are so many schemes out here in French Guiana, and most of them have flopped, you see. Even this penal colony has flopped, you see. It was a failure. And the French Guyanese is skeptical about all new schemes, and he's not convinced that Kourou is going to be a success, you see. So most of the French Guyanese, they're just sort of following very closely, but they don't believe in it, they don't think so.
There's a sort of built-in failure here, isn't there? This is a land of lost causes.
There's lost causes, yes, that's right. Put it a good way.
There's also the dead weight of these 80,000 convicts, which the land can never escape. Guiana will always be Devil's Island to your foreigner.
It's partly true. But you see, I think it has a deeper impression, it has made a deeper impression on the French Guyanese themselves. Because the French Guyanese, who were accustomed to having this white labor, you see, white slaves, but they never worked, you see, they never worked the land.
They are not walking the ground because they are in here. Here is the place. If they can find some job in office, they like it to work in office. That's why they are not walking the ground. Because a stranger, they don't give you to work in the office.
The French Guyanese sort of find that the land is sort of cursed, you see. He refused to work it because the convicts used to work it out, you see. So I think it has caused a deeper impression on the French Guyanese, and as you said, on the European France, because a metropolitan, when he comes over here, a European, the first thing they ask him what he has done, you see, to sort of come over to Cayenne. And he's even told to the Secretary General, he said, what have you done? I mean, yes, are you guilty of something? And that's why, yes.
They think people are still sentenced to come here.
Yeah.